In the bustling town of Kabira Falls, where motorcycles buzzed louder than the church choir and secrets travelled faster than the wind, lived a couple who, from the outside, looked picture perfect. Nelson was a respected banker, always in pressed shirts and polished shoes. His words were smooth, his jokes well-timed, and his smile, the kind that fooled everyone. His wife, Gloria, was a secondary school teacher known for her calm presence and elegant poise. They had been married for 12 years and had a son in boarding school. Gloria adored her family and believed in love, loyalty, and insurance. Yes, insurance. After a near-fatal car accident a few years ago, Gloria had taken out a life insurance policy worth 8 million shillings and made Nelson the sole beneficiary. She thought it was love. When Gloria signed the life insurance papers, she imagined safety, a net woven out of devotion. To her, it was about protecting their future. If anything ever happened to her, Nelson and their son would be cared for. It was love in ink and signature, a final act of trust. She saw it as commitment, an invisible thread tying their lives together even in death. Nelson, on the other hand, had a secret. It wasn't the kind you whisper to a close friend over drinks. No, his secret was darker, the kind that sits quietly at the back of your mind like a coiled snake. Nelson had met Delia on a hot Thursday afternoon, the kind when the sun felt like it had a personal grudge against every living thing. He had gone into town to buy Gloria a birthday dress, not out of love, but out of routine. Something blue, maybe with lace, something that said, "Look, I remembered," even if his heart was long gone. He walked into a boutique called Deluxe Threads, tucked between a noisy bus stage and a hair salon blaring gospel music. The bell above the glass door jingled sharply, and the air inside was thick with vanilla-scented ambition. And there she was, Delia. She didn't look up at first. She was perched behind the counter, scrolling through her phone with the detachment of a queen tired of being adored. Her wig was copper blonde and perfect, curled just so. Her lips were glossy, her dress was tight enough to suggest confidence and loose enough to whisper mystery. When she finally looked up, her eyes didn't just see Nelson. They measured him. She saw the wedding ring, the small belly, the shirt that had once fit better, but she also saw something else. Desire, boredom, weakness, the kind of man who could be persuaded. He tried to be casual. "Looking for a birthday gift," he said, already sweating. "For your wife?" she asked, with a smirk that said she already knew the answer. "Yes," he replied, though it came out like a question. She laughed, low, throaty, dangerous. "Then you should try the clearance rack. Save the money for your girlfriend," she said with a flirtatious smile. That was all it took. From that moment, Delia had him. He left that day without the dress, but with her number. By the end of the week, he was sending her lunch money, just because. Within a month, he would leave work and go sit in her boutique instead of going home to Gloria. He would watch her flirt with other men just to make him jealous. He liked it. It made him feel young, reckless, important. And Delia? She liked the money, the lies, the thrill of making a married man squirm with guilt and excitement. That's how it began, with a smirk, a number, and a man forgetting the line between danger and desire. Back at home, Gloria was no fool. She'd loved Nelson once, deeply, fully, and with the kind of loyalty that survives unpaid bills, late nights, and mismatched expectations. But lately, something had shifted. The man who once begged her for a second cup of tea now barely made eye contact. He was always working late, always clutching his phone like it held the key to a second life. And Gloria, though gentle, was observant. One night, around 11:30 p.m., Nelson fell asleep on the couch, his snore loud, his mouth open, his phone still unlocked in his hand. She wasn't even trying to snoop. She picked it up instinctively to plug it into the charger, and that's when she saw it. A message lit up the screen. "Delia. Babe, tell me again how you're going to make me your wife. I love hearing it." Another followed seconds later. "You said, once the insurance clears, we'll buy the new car. Don't forget." Gloria's breath caught. Her hand trembled. Her stomach turned cold. She opened the thread. It was all there. Months of texts, promises of a future without, the deadweight, talk of, the plan, messages like, "Just one accident, babe. That's all it'll take." She's worth more dead than alive. The policy pays out fast. Then we're free. He had even sent Delia a photo of Gloria's insurance document, the one she had signed years ago. She felt sick, not from heartbreak, but betrayal. A cold, calculating kind that dressed up as marriage, smiled at the children, and plotted your death over tea. Gloria didn't cry. She didn't scream. She took screenshots, every single one, sent them to herself, and deleted her chats from his phone, not to leave evidence that she was aware of his secret. Then, she quietly placed the phone back in Nelson's hand and waited until morning. The next day, Gloria left early, not to work, but to the district police station. She met with Inspector Maggie, a no-nonsense woman who had seen many cases, but still raised her brow when Gloria calmly explained everything. "You're saying your husband plans to have you killed for insurance?" she asked. "Yes," Gloria said, handing her the screenshots and recordings, "and I want to help you catch him." She inspected the evidence and, after a long pause, Inspector Magi leaned forward and said, "We can use this, but you'll have to act like you don't know." Gloria blinked hard, trying to steady her breathing. The betrayal still stung. The texts, the photos, the cruel emoji-laced promises Nelson had sent to Delia. But now, sitting in the police station, she had a choice: cry or catch him. She chose justice. With her full cooperation, the police took immediate action, using the evidence Gloria had provided, screenshots, dates, numbers. They secured a warrant to monitor Nelson's communications. Every text, every call, every message from his number was now visible to the officers at Cybercrime's HQ. Nelson was getting desperate. Delia had started dropping hints, louder ones. She wanted action, not promises. "If you really love me," she'd say, twirling her blonde wig, "you'd handle your situation. I'm not built for waiting, Nelson." So one night, after too much brandy and bravado, Nelson, not knowing his phone activities were monitored, opened a private browser tab and searched, "How to hire someone to make your problem disappear." Most of what he found was laughable: fake websites, scam messages, and shady forums that smelled like traps. But eventually, he stumbled on a number. No names, just a message that said, "Need a solution, serious clients only. Send a message on Telegram only." He downloaded Telegram. He messaged. After a few hours of silence, he got a reply: "You'll be contacted." The police quickly assigned Officer Kamau, a plainclothes specialist trained in undercover operations, to pose as the hired killer. Using an untraceable number, he made contact with Nelson. The two exchanged coded messages, arranging a meeting to discuss logistics and payment. That weekend, Kamau, casual jeans, quiet eyes, no trace of a badge, met Nelson in a dingy cafe on the edge of town. He introduced himself only as Ray, and everything about him screamed underworld, from the burner phone to the way he never looked around too much. Nelson leaned in and muttered, "You're the one who solves things?" Kamau gave a small smile. "If the price is right." Nelson exhaled. "Good, I have a wife problem." Kamau recorded everything: how Nelson offered cash and promised more after the job was done, how he handed over Gloria's photo, how he said, "Make it look like a robbery or an accident, just clean, I can't have my hands dirty." It was all on tape. Kamau gave him a date. Nelson nodded. And just like that, the trap was set. All the while, Gloria played her part. At home, at work, even laughing at Nelson's dry jokes while the walls closed in around him. Now, 4 days later, Nelson came home to find Gloria gone, the house eerily silent. Then a deep voice said, "It's done. She won't bother you again." Nelson paused, his throat dry. Then he smiled. "Good," he whispered. "You'll get your balance tomorrow." 30 minutes later, there was a knock on the door, and he opened to find police officers standing there. One of them, tall and broad-shouldered, flipped open a badge with a practiced motion. "Mr. Nelson?" "Yes," Nelson said, lowering his voice. "We're here to talk to you about your wife." He nodded, feigning confusion. Is she all right?" The taller officer's lips barely moved. "She's fine." And then, click. The cold touch of metal on his wrist was sharper than expected. "You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted insurance fraud, and solicitation of a contract killing." one of the other officers said, tightening the cuffs. What? What are you talking about? But as he twisted, trying to break free, he saw her, Gloria, very much alive, standing across the courtyard, arms folded, eyes calm, not triumphant, just steady. She didn't need to say anything. Gloria, Gloria, I can explain. But she shook her head once, slowly. I'm not your wife anymore, she said softly. I'm the woman you tried to bury, and I'm still standing. The officers led him away, his shoes kicking up dust, his head bowed, not in shame, but in the crushing realization that he had been played. By the very woman he thought was too soft to fight back. By the very woman he thought was too soft to fight back. Gloria watched the police car disappear down the red dust road, the sirens fading but final. A slight breeze tugged at the hem of her blouse, as if the wind itself had been holding its breath, waiting for justice. Delia, the boutique owner with a sparkle in her eye and a wallet full of receipts she didn't earn, had been sitting outside the cafe when they came for her. Unlike Nelson, she didn't scream or fight when the police slipped the cuffs around her wrists. She just hissed, "Tell him to rot," and flicked her weave over her shoulder like she was late for a hair appointment. The story spread like wildfire. The church group clutched their Bibles tighter. Delia's boutique remained shut. Gloria? She moved on. She used the evidence to file for divorce and gained full custody of her son. And Nelson? He's still in jail, probably still trying to figure out how the woman he thought was naive outsmarted him with grace, law, and quiet rage. Delia was charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Her expensive wigs did not make her invincible. In court, she tried to paint herself as a victim, said Nelson misled her, said she didn't know he was married, said she thought the handling he spoke of was a divorce, not a death. But the text spoke louder than her tears. So did the voice recordings, full of greedy laughter. Gloria never once looked at her during the hearings. Not out of hate, but because Delia had never truly been the enemy. She was just the mirror that reflected what Nelson had become. After the trial, she sold the house, and with a portion of the money, she opened her dream cafe in town, Truth and Grace. It was warm, full of sunlight, soft jazz music, and women who came not just for the hibiscus tea and millet bread, but to sit in the presence of a woman who had faced death, betrayal, and humiliation, and risen without bitterness. She created a safe space where healing didn't have to be loud, where no one had to whisper their pain. Women came with stories. Gloria offered quiet strength, not pity. As for Nelson, he never wrote, never called. He rotted in silence, just as Delia faded from memory. Occasionally, someone would bring up their names, at a wedding, a funeral, the hair salon, but Gloria only smiled and said, "That was another life." Because the woman Nelson tried to bury, she didn't just survive, she bloomed.